Okay. Rambam, Shchita, Perek Yud Aleph, Halacha Gimel. Rambam says, Kol behema chaya v'oif v'cheskas briim. Every animal, chaya and oif, are assumed to be healthy. We have no concern whether they may have something that would render them non-kosher because they would consider it a treifa. Therefore, if you do a kosher shchita, a good shchita, you don't require it to be checked. You don't have to go through the animal and check. Perhaps it has one of those treifas, holes that Rama mentions and a bunch of different things. We assume that they are mutter, they have a chazakah being mutter until something comes about that gives us reason to suspect that it's not, that it has one of these things that are no good. You only check that one thing that you have a concern about. Otherwise, don't check anything. Okay. I want to connect a different halacha that we had earlier in Hilchos Shchita about bedikas asake, checking the knife. As you know, one of the things that sheikhtim have to do is check knives by shchita. And the Rambam Perek Aleph in Hilchos Shchita Halacha Chav Daled writes that you must check the knife after shchita, because if you check many times and then you find something wrong, so that makes it a suffix v'vela, and that's not a good idea because you're going to create a doubt in many, many animals that you have checked. They'll all be considered suffix v'velas, so it's not a good idea. The Ravid argues on that and says, you don't have to do it, only if you want to check further, but you don't have to. The Makebas HaMishnah brings a machlekes. What happens if you shechted and you lost the socket? So do you rely on the fact that it's a good chazakah or not? The Ramban says no. You can't rely on the socket anymore. It's a suffix. The Rambam, he says, and the Riv, and Rashi hold that you then apply that it's good because it was checked at one time. However, if it's here, then ain't same kanal chazakah. Then you got to check it. And he applies a very interesting concept, because you don't rely on a chazakah called heicha de'efshel lebrory, as long as you can verify. Chazakah is only if you can't verify. If you can't verify, then don't rely on the chazakah. In Masechtas Pesachim Daf Daled Amar Aleph, the Gemara asks a shaila. Boi minei me'Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Hamaskir bayis l'chaveiroi ba'arba osor. Somebody rents a house to somebody else on the 14th day of Nisan. So the Gemara asks a question: Cheskasei baduk? Or ain't cheskasei baduk? Is it chazakah that it's baduk or not? Is it? Do we assume it's checked that the man wouldn't have rented it if he didn't check it? So the Gemara right away jumps on this question with a question. L'may nafkamina? Who cares? Let's ask him. Let's ask him. So Gemara answers, the leisa lahai the lishiyulei. We don't have, he's not here to be asked. So la truche lahai might, do we require him to go do the bedikah? So the Gemara's immediate response was, ask him. Now, there are different ways to learn Pshat this Gemara. We'll get to one of them. But there are two basic ways to learn. Rashi uses a lot of very interesting expressions there. It says if somebody rented to somebody on the 14th day of the month, when in the morning, Shachris, he did it in the morning. Certainly, he checked it. Emesh commits Chacham, as the Chacham say. Eloi. Then again, later, when he says that children and women are relieved, he says not because they have the ability to testify, because we assume it's Baduk. The certainly he wouldn't be over even if he's an Amaretz. It is very interesting. Rashi's use of the word Vadai is a little strong, because Chazakah is not a Vadai. Generally, Chazakas are a Hanhogya in Sveikis. They're not a Vadai. And yet he considers it a Vadai. At best, it's a birur, but it's not a Vadai. Okay. The Ran on the Rif in the Sugya, regarding that the Rif writes, L'mayin Afkimina on the Gemara, L'mayin Afkimina L'leisil L'hail L'shayla. So the Ran says, Klaimar, the Isay L'maskir, if the maskir is here, come on, L'nafkir L'minay Midi. There's no issue. I feel the name of the Chazakah say Boduk. Even if you would say that there is Chazakah that it's Boduk, as long as we can ask, we ask. We don't rely on a Chazakah. And here's the rule that we mentioned before. In other words, Chazakah is a great thing, but Chazakah only is good if you can't be mevarer something clearly and can't come out to clarity. But if you can be mevarer, what we don't use, you can't rely on Chazakah. And therefore, he writes, Lefiachach kosav Arav al Fasizal, mever kamed dechulin, the loisamchinan aroiv mitzuyin eisel shchita mumchen heim. In other words, if let's say we see somebody shecht, and we don't know if this guy is an expert. Now, if we know he's not, but if we don't know he is. So there's a Rav Mitzuyin of Shchita Mumchenem. Those who are Shecht are usually Mumchen. Why else would you get involved in that? But that only works when the guy's not here. We can't interrogate him and we can't check him out. We don't say, well, I don't have to really go after the guy. I don't have to ask him. I see the guy. I'll assume that he's from the Rav. He's okay. He's a good guy. He knows what he's doing. And he says the same rule, because we rely on the rule that they don't rely on a Chazakah. And the same thing over here when there is the ability to ask. And he refers to the Rambam. I don't know which Rambam he's referring to in Hilchos Chametz Matzah, because we'll see soon. Now, just to note, the Rambam Hilchos Shchita says the same thing. Somebody we don't know about, whether he's a mumcha. Then we rely on him. Then the next halacha, Harei shereinu Yisraeli merochik sheshachat v'holach loy. We saw somebody shecht and he left. V'lo yadanu im yedeya im eina yedeya. We don't know if this guy is a knowledgeable person. Harei zu materes. But clearly, v'holach loy, the Rambam adds, that he left. He ran away. He's not here. We can't get him. And the same thing, he brings another case, but that Rav, the Rambam seems to indicate, only if you can't check it out. So it would be a little interesting to understand what is the Rambam Shitta and in Chazakah Efshel Lebrory. It would seem that by Rav Efshel Lebrory says don't go rely on the Rav. But the Chazakah is different. But by the knife, he seems to say also, Efshel Lebrory. He seems to follow a pattern that if you can check. Okay. Tur Simen Taf Lamed Zayin, which is in Hilches Pesach. Aseicher Bayis Mechaver B'Dalid Ve'ena Yedeya Imhu Boduk Im Lav. So Imhu Be'ir Shelim. The guy's here asked. Im Bodka Im Lav. Ve'ena Be'ir Tailin Lahokel. We go on a we use a kula. We rely on a leniency. Loimar Shabbatkai, to assume that he was Vaidik, believe him that. The lotion of the Tur would seem to indicate that this is not a very big issue. It's not such a big issue, and therefore, Tailin Lahokel. I don't use so much the word Chazakah. Tailin Lahokel. Very, very interesting lashon. Doesn't fit with what the Gemara uses the lashon, but that's what he says. The Beis Yosef asks, why are we asking the masker if he's here? Manav shach. There's a chazakah, there's a chazakah, not. We don't check behemoths for treifus. We started off the halacha, our halacha. We don't check for treifus. We assume that it's good. Right? We assume that it's good. As we started off today's shir with the Rambam Perek Yudal V'Lacha Gimel, Kol Behema V'Chaya V'Oiv B'Cheskes Briyamei. They are. We assume they're healthy. So why is this any different? Why we don't go? We can check. Why not check? You have an easy way out. So he says an interesting answer. We have to understand what the answer is. The behema is the cheskes ksheira mishanolda. When it was born, it already was kosher. We assumed it's kosher. A house, all year long, there's chametz there. Interesting answer. All year long, there was chametz there. It's not boduk. Suddenly we think boduk. All year long, there was no Indian bedika. Now that the Indian bedika came about, Rashi used the lashon vadai boduk. Very interesting. Very interesting. The Bach bothers him this question. I don't understand. Chazakah, not a chazakah. Why are we going to check? So he says, it's an automatic. We are relying on the erlichkeit of the balabayis. Okay, something came up and he didn't do it. So it's not as strong as Chazakah. That's a little easier to understand, stronger. And that's what the Beis Yosef maybe means. It doesn't. He uses the word kol hashana v'cheskes she'ein bodek. The word that he's saying is the aim is automatically healthy. We're trying to find out what happened here. Something happened. Happened is already a different story. Yeah, and therefore he says the sheikh is the same thing. If we know, we can check him out. We check him out. I know he has to become learned. He doesn't grow. He doesn't have born learned. He has to work on becoming learned. Okay. So, but what seems to go? Let's just now see what we have here. You have a number of important points. Comes to Sakin, Hammer holds be Beidik. Yeah, if it's lost, rely on the Chazakah. So the Rambam does seem by Reiv Nitzuyin Eitz Ashchitik Sheir, be Beidik. Can't be Beidik, rely on the Reiv. So the Rambam would seem to hold that Hanogi and Sveikis, Efshel Lebrory b'Mevarim. But somehow or another, the halacha of that we just learned when it comes to behema b'cheskes bari is different. I think just to note before we get into the Hilchos Chametz part to answer that question, the Rambam I think starts up over here that he says kol behema b'chaya b'cheskes briyam heim. It's not. It's an interesting losh. Bothered me the losh Brian. They're healthy. It's not a halachic issue. It's not a question of did something halachically happen here. It's a fact. An animal, things are born assumingly healthy. We have no reason to assume it's unhealthy unless something goes. Unless unhealthiness is not normal. It's different than any other chazakah, where you have to judge on its halachic status. I think here it's not a halachic status. It's a fact. It's healthy. It's a healthy animal. It's a healthy animal, and therefore we have nothing to worry about. Why go check? We're not dealing halachically here. The halacha never became an issue, and therefore the halacha. I think that's what is the way he sets it up. Cheskes Brian. Okay, I finish up. I want to just take this a step further and analyze what's the Rambam Shitta by Bedikas Chametz. So let's take a look. Now I want to note that the Ran mentions, we said, that the Rambam also agrees that you don't rely, if there's Isa L'Kamon, you have to ask him. Let's see if that's true. I mean, if that's what the Rambam says. He writes in Hilchos Chametz, I'm going to read it. Hamaskir bayis stam. Somebody who rents a house stam. Ba'arbo osir. Harezeh b'cheskes boduk. That is considered boduk. We assume it is check. Ve'enei tzorach livik. And you don't got to do anything. And he goes to the other shaila, when you can rely on children and women. So first, something jumps out at you from this words of the Rambam. He adds one word that nobody else has. The Gemara doesn't add it. Hamaskir bayis stam. What's the stam? Hamaskir bayis, like the Gemara says. I'm not known to add words that are not necessary. The Tur gave an answer. The Tur said that if you're not around, I'm going to give that. Why doesn't he offer that? It's a good solution. We do talk about these things. Is what we say. And then the big question. Why doesn't the Rambam say the Gemara's question? If he's here, let's ask him. So there are three issues. Why he doesn't add the Tur. Okay, let's say he doesn't add it. What's the stam? And what's this? Why doesn't he mention that if the guy's here, don't rely on it? The Rambam seems to hold that at Makim Eshel Lebrouri, we don't rely on Chazakah. So I would like to suggest that the Rambam's wording of here, stam, is not just an expression. It is the basis of this halacha. In other words, we are relying on his stam rental. The fact that he rented it stam without saying anything, he is assuming that you are relying on him. It's as if he is telling you it's okay. Because if not, he wouldn't have rented it to you stam. He would have told you. The stam is like a hados edus. The stam is a hados edus. Just like a kot nisha neman, this is a nahmanos. And by saying so, it's an hados edus. And that's why he doesn't give you the Tur's answer also about the Liberdai, because it's not again. You have a Eidecha that says it's good. Why would he machmer? Taisus in Psachim says by Tevel we rely on a cheskes chaver, right? If a chaver gives you something, you rely, and you don't have to ask him. So he says, why? Because we rely on the fact that he sent it to you. He must be, he's telling you something. He's telling you it's good. So the Yeshua asks, so why can't we rely on it? Yes, he says, because it's not so serious as by a chaver. Good, that's the Yeshua. The Rambam doesn't hold like that. The Rambam holds it is serious. The Rambam holds it is serious, and we could rely on him. So it could be that this is not an Inyan Chazakah Efshel Lebrory. You have Eidecha, there's no Efshel Lebrory. You have an Adov and Eidecha. You can rely on him. So Ulai Yeshleim, just two things, very important to go back and let's read. Generally, the Rambam Shitta would be Chazakah Efshel Lebrory, you need to be Mevar. There are two cases not, and we know that we're talking about it. One is when you're dealing with the natural existence of something, similar to what the Beis Yosef, the Bach more than the Beis Yosef. And the Rambam is stressing when an animal is healthy, it's a healthy being. Something's born, it's born healthy. Everything creates things healthy. And therefore, it's not that we have no reason. We have no there's nothing here. There's nothing there. You're saying that it was created an unhealthy animal. That there's no such thing. There's no such thing. And there's no Efshel Lebrory on this. Asha Ein Kain. And another time is by Cheskes Body, because the Ram adds the word stop. Really, that should be the din. If we're only Chazakah, yeah, it'd be Efshel Lebrory. I'm gonna have to say it. If I can't, it's Shailina way. There's always a Shailina. By him giving it to you, it's like you asked him and he said it's good. There's no reason to go ask a second time. That's not Efshel Lebrory. We have to be ready. And that's why the Rambam has that word, and that's why the Rambam doesn't say the Tur. That would come out very good. Sei gesund, a gute Nacht. Thank you.